Welcome to Cravings Control for Fat Loss. I'm your host, Laura Cavallo, former sugar binger, overeater, and yo-yo dieter turned fat loss and cravings coach for hundreds of busy women. Here at Cravings Control for Fat Loss, I'll be sharing mindset, movement, and metabolism strategies for those who are ready to ditch the fat diet cycle and slim down without counting calories, tracking points, or giving up any of the foods they love. Get ready to embrace progress over perfection, grace over guilt, and bring curiosity and learning to the inevitable ups and downs of your life. Expect a decrease in your cravings while seeing and feeling an improvement in how you look, how you feel, and your overall quality of life. I am so excited you're here, boo. Let's get started. If you're a busy woman who has struggled with constant cravings, intense overeating, and insatiable hunger, and you want to finally get a handle on your diet without gimmicks, fads, or eliminating, then I want to invite you to my signature program, the Cravings Code, which starts on Monday, September 25th. Enrollment for the Cravings Code opens on Wednesday, September 20th at 9 a.m. Eastern. During the 6 weeks of the Cravings Code, you can expect up to a 70% decrease in your cravings and overeating while adopting a more gracious, compassionate, and flexible way of eating that will prime your mindset and your metabolism to eventually eat fewer calories and sustainably lose weight if that's one of your goals. The Cravings Code will deliver one-on-one, high-touch coaching with me while connecting you to a community of other like-minded women in a small pod format. You will learn the Code 6 curriculum, the same strategies that have helped my clients drastically lower cravings, finally stop fearing food, and stressing with every single bite. Follow the link below to the info page to learn more and join. The last day to enroll is Monday, September 25th at 9 p.m. Eastern. Today I sat down with Lisa, who joined the first round of the Cravings Code back in May. Lisa opens up about the challenges of her changing body due to having kids, being diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and now heading into menopause. Over the years, Lisa tried various challenges, programs, and diets, but only found herself more stressed and anxious trying to figure out the right foods to eat. Also, due to her gut issues, she was never able to find a diet that was personalized enough to help meet her nutritional needs as a result of Crohn's disease, until the Cravings Code. The Cravings Code helped Lisa build plates that didn't negatively affect her gut, while also prioritizing foods that helped her reduce cravings, overeating, and take away the guilt and shame that many women develop as a result of doing restrictive diet protocols. Listen in as Lisa shares her 20-plus year struggles with diet, body image, and her health, and how she's finally found some peace and a healthy groove with the Cravings Code. I hope you enjoy the show. Welcome to another episode of Cravings Control for Fat Loss. My name is Laura Cavallo, your cravings coach, and today I am super excited to be chatting with Lisa, who was part of our first round of the Cravings Code. Thanks so much for being on, Lisa.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. I'm so excited. You are a fellow New Yorker. You live in Brooklyn, so I felt very special connection to you when we started working together.
Yes, the same. I felt the same.
Yeah. So how are things going now? It's been a couple months after the Cravings Code, and you're a teacher and you had summer to kind of focus on some of your routines and habits. And I know you started exercising as well during the program. And now school's starting back up soon. When do you start again?
I start on Tuesday.
Oh my goodness. Right after Labor Day. It's like that countdown now. How have things been going after the Cravings Code for you?
So I have to say the status quo plates I've still been sticking to, and it's just an easy go-to, no stress related. I'm still following that. And
it's amazing.
It's great. It really is a no-brainer. And I definitely find that very easy to follow. Mm-hmm. So I'm still doing that. I'm working on the move more. Mm-hmm. I have been getting more steps in every day. I mean, it does help that I have a dog and I try to wear him out, but I think he wears me out.
Yeah.
So I try to schedule that in every day before 12. I go on at least a mile walk with him and I try to exercise in that sense. I was doing workout classes, but unfortunately, because it's the end of the summer, they ended. So I've been trying to stick more with the walking and the move more.
Yeah.
So that's what I've been doing now. And I'm still practicing everything, the Crave and Go, which I love, the eating, the 2 hours, not to eat 2 hours before I go to sleep, and the 2 hours when I wake up, which is excellent to keep as well. Even though I know I'm not really that hungry, I'm still eating within those 2 hours in the
Yeah.
morning.
Yeah, I remember that was a challenge. Like, I'm not super hungry, so like, how much should I be eating? For those that are listening, Lisa joined the Cravings Code and did 6 weeks of the Cravings Code, and then went on to join Slim Six, which is our more like fat loss, weight loss focused program. So some of the strategies that she's sharing are also Slim Six focused, but we can't get to Slim Six until we go through those Cravings Code strategies, because that's really where a lot of like the nutrition and mindset stuff came into play, and we'll talk a little bit more about that today. So Lisa, how did you find me? Do you remember?
I do. So it was on Instagram.
Okay.
I think I followed you, and then you reached out to me in a DM. And I remember telling this, I was a little weary because I don't know, it's Instagram. I don't really trust a lot of people on there.
Yeah.
And I followed you for a little bit. And then when you said, oh, sign up for this program and it's free. And I'm like, free? Nothing's for free.
Yeah, the Cravings Cleanup Challenge.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I was like, all right, it's free. I'm going to try it. I'm going to join it. And then whatever whatever we did with the Satisful plates, I was like, this is great. And it was just for breakfast. And I'm like, I could do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then I just wanted more and wanted more because what you said made sense. And I could really relate to you, what you said, like how you felt, what you experienced. And I was like, okay, so maybe she is the real deal. And then going through everything, I figured out that you are very knowledgeable and you are the real deal. And this is real. It's a real program and it does work.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm so glad you took that chance. I'm so glad you took that chance on me. And, we had only met and been talking for a couple months, maybe. Like, I don't even think it was that long. So, when you're online and connecting to coaches online, there's millions of coaches out there. There's millions of people talking about nutrition and exercise and cravings and hormones and menopause. And so it can be hard to know who to trust. And I'm glad that I instilled some confidence in you in those beginning stages. But yeah, I can understand how it could be really intimidating. So, what part of sort of my story did you feel connected to, just based on, I guess, like where were you before the Cravings Code and before the Cravings Cleanup Challenge? Like, what were some of your struggles? What were some of your challenges that you were kind of looking for a more permanent solution to cravings, to fat loss, to weight loss, and to that food relationship? Because I know that changed a lot for you as well, too, throughout the program.
Yes, because I had a very bad relationship with food. So when you reached out to me at that time, I was on Weight Watchers for like the second time. But nothing was working. So I'm 51 years old, and I feel like my body has whatever worked in the past is not working now. And I feel like my body is foreign. So I was trying to figure it out and see what would work for me. And the whole idea with the Weight Watchers was I was stressing myself out. I was overwhelmed. I was always thinking about, oh my goodness, what am I going to eat next? I only have 4 points left. It's 2:00. And tracking everything and then taking out the app and taking pictures of food labels. It just made me like overwhelmed and crazy. And I felt like I had to do something different because I'm 51. I'm not the same I was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. My body is totally different. And I had to kind of embrace that. So I thought that's what I thought I would, stick with you and figure out and see what you had to teach me. And that was why I said, you know what, I'm just going to jump in and I have nothing to lose except weight.
Yeah. Yeah. And the program was free. At least the Cravings
Yes,
Cleanup Challenge was free,
correct.
So before Weight Watchers, what was your like experience with like exercise, your weight, nutrition, like growing up in your 20s and your 30s and your 40s? Can you remember a time where you were focused on that, or did it become more top of mind for you as you got older?
Yeah, so when I was in high school, I was always very skinny, and people would actually say, "You're so skinny, you need to gain weight." And I would always be confident. And I never had an issue with weight. In my 20s, my mom was diagnosed with ovarian cancer, and I became her caretaker. And that's where my battle with gaining weight began. That's where my stress began. That's where my constant worry, and even with food, I feel like that's where I developed my relationship with food. Was from the stress
Yeah.
and from worrying every day.
Yeah.
So when I was 23, my mom passed away, and now I'm 51. So since I was 23 is really when I struggled with my
Wow.
weight. I had, my daughter when I was 30. I always joke around, I'm still trying to lose the baby fat. And then when I was 40, I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease. And this restricted my diet completely, because now I'm diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and I can't eat fiber. I can't eat vegetables. I can't eat all the good stuff that we were told that we could eat. Now I'm dealt this different way of eating and having to deal with nutrition. And I feel like this also opens up a different avenue of me, like, okay, now what do I eat? And what I always was eating, or what I used to know what to eat, like salads, for example, I couldn't eat. I could only eat carbs because everything else would make me sick. So, and then now I was on all
Right.
this medication as well. So again, this opened up the struggle for me with my weight. And then now that I'm in menopause, I'm 51. Now that's opened another, chapter in my life, that my body is foreign, and that, whatever worked in the past does not work now. So this is where I'm at now. And that's why I, wanted to take a chance on you to help me maybe figure out this new chapter in my life with new nutrition and these new eating habits.
Yeah, and I'm so sorry to hear about your mom. I lost my father when I was 8, and I know the trauma from that impacted my ability to cope with stressful situations. And so I was always very like all or nothing,
Yeah.
right? I was very much like, oh, I'll self-soothe with food, or I'll use alcohol to make me feel better, or I'll just eat because I feel lonely, instead of learning how to cope with some of these challenges that I had in my life. And I think you sharing about your mom and us looking at some of these periods in your life, like having a child and Crohn's disease and menopause, like it just goes to show that yes, weight loss and fat loss is about calories, but there's a lot more layers to our health and our fat loss than just calories in, calories out, right? We have these emotional challenges that can cause us to eat more or less. We have these big life changes, these big hormonal and body changes, having a child, going through menopause, that can really impact how our body responds to things like sleep and stress and food, which can impact our weight and our cravings. And so, I really think it's too simplistic to say, well, if you want to lose weight, just eat less, right? Like, if it were that easy, then I'm sure all of us would would have had a much easier time losing weight, right? But it's not that easy. And so, thank you for sharing your story and sort of those like life experiences that have happened to you. So I remember some of the challenges with Crohn's being sort of a challenge within the Cravings Code too, because detox is that big part of making satisful plates, and you weren't always also feeling full, right? So there were definitely some challenges within the Cravings Code with creating satisful plates and some of these habits. Overall, do you feel like you were able to take some of the strategies that we did and apply them to your life and mold them to your life and make them work for you? Or do you still feel like you have some challenges? And
No, I definitely, I still use the satisful plates. And for the Crohn's part of it, a big thing is to start off with carbs so that it kind of like coats your stomach. And then you could eat the lean and the detox, or the protein and the vegetables. So a lot of
yeah,
other like nutrition paths, it's usually you have to stay away from the carbs. And that's really, I can't stay away from the carbs. That's my coating of my stomach. So that's one good thing about satisfied plates, is that I could start with some carbs and then go to the protein and then go to the vegetables and then go back to the carbs. So I have to say that the
Wow.
Satisful Plates helps in that sense for me, because I'm not feeling guilt or shame that, oh, I have to have pasta or I have to have this piece of bread. So now I feel like since I've been doing all this, I do not have the shame and guilt like I used to have with the food that I'm choosing to eat. What's great is that I
Wow.
can adjust it. So let's say if I didn't eat so my whole thing is if I don't eat for a certain amount of hours, I definitely have to start off with carbs. So if I know I might have to have a little bit more carbs now, but at lunch I had a salad, I don't feel so guilty with my choice for my meal. So the Satisful Plates is
Yeah.
definitely doable. And like I said, I used to have a lot of shame and guilt for what I used to eat. And doing this has really helped my whole mind strategy with with everything. It
Wow.
really has helped me out a lot.
Yeah. I'm so happy to hear that. I'm so happy to hear that. And I have such like a soft spot for guilt and shame in a way, because I feel like a lot of us grow up with so much guilt and shame around our diet, around our bodies, around comparing ourselves to other people. And I really feel like it's something that holds us back from reaching our fullest potential and being truly happy and living our life to just the fullest and how we truly want it to be. You shared with me that you felt like your body felt
Yes.
foreign, like you were feeling really guilty and ashamed and regretful about some of the foods you were eating. What were some of the other stories you were telling yourself in your 20s and your 30s, after you had your daughter, as you're going through menopause, as you're having Crohn's? Like, were you ever saying to yourself, like, I'm never going to be able to figure this out, or like, this is really hard, or I have to take out all these foods if I want to see results? Or what were some of like the storylines that were going through your head? Can you remember at all, if any?
Yeah, well, I always had a lot of negative talk, always a lot of negative talk that it's all or nothing. I can't eat that because I'm going to gain so much weight, or I can't do it. I don't have the willpower. And I feel like as I got older, the negative talk got worse, and that I
Mm,
felt more like hopeless, like I can't do this, or I would come home from work and I can't work out. I'm so tired, and I would just make up things in my head that and kind of rationalize it a little, and just that because I'm sick and I'm
yeah.
on so much medication, nothing's ever going to work, and I'm not like everybody else, so I
Mm,
can't follow that cookie cutter diet. Um, you know, and I just remember a couple of people would try to get me to do this diet or that diet. And it would start off with a shake in the morning. I can't have a shake in the morning. Like with the Crohn's, I can't drink my breakfast. Like that's not something that I could do. And, I just felt like things were hopeless and that I was just always going to just keep gaining weight and I would just have to accept it and, move on.
mm, mm. Yeah. Wow. I have the chills. I have the chills. I can relate to a lot of that, especially the hopelessness, after years and years and years of trying things and dead ends and not seeing things work for yourself. It makes you feel just like you're lost, and you're right. Like cookie cutter diets don't work for most people, right? They might work for a small percentage of people, but ultimately, like, your life is so different from mine and mine is so different from the next person, and for us to try and all eat the same and have the same schedule and do all the same things, it's just not realistic. And especially like taking your Crohn's as an example, like, I can't have a shake for breakfast. Like, the fact that that is so powerful in itself, where we look at it as like a negative thing, like, "Ugh, I can't do like what everyone else is doing." But the fact that the fact that how your body responds to that is so powerful. It is so important, because now you're like, well, I can't do that, but these are the things that I can do. And I think that's the amazing part about the Cravings Code and the Cravings Cleanup Challenge is it puts you in the driver's seat. It empowers you to find things that work for you, instead of feeling like you have to fit yourself into this diet. It's like, no, this diet, this nutrition protocol, this approach has to fit with your lifestyle. And so I'm so glad that it's met you with where you are at and help
Right.
guide
And
you
it also
along.
makes me feel like I'm in control. Like I'm in control of what I could eat. nothing like there's some things that you don't say, like, you can't eat this, you can't eat that. Like, I'm in control. I could, if I want to have a piece of chocolate, I can have a piece of chocolate. Like, and I don't feel the guilt with it.
Yeah.
So, a big thing was I was not in control. I did not feel in control. And then that made me overwhelmed. And then it was like making me crazy. And then all I ever thought about was food. And then I'm like, this is not a healthy relationship. Like, I need to figure out a better mindset with food and, a better relationship with food. And that's what this has definitely helped me with, is I'm not overwhelmed.
Wow.
Like last night I had some ice cream and I wasn't guilty with that. And I was like, it's fine. I'm going to have it tonight, and tomorrow's a new day. And I woke up and had a satisful breakfast.
Yes. There you go. That's it. That's it. And every day will be the same, like just get up and find those satisful plates and hang on to those cornerstone habits and move your body in the best way that you can. So let's talk a little bit more about your experience within the Cravings Code. So you shared about how we met on Instagram. You were a little weary. You're like, who's this girl? I don't trust a lot of people online. And, I respect that and appreciate that, because as a consumer, I feel like a lot of women will believe anything online, right? I know I believe, I'll try keto, I'll try Whole30, I'll try this, I'll try that. I was like, whatever you guys are saying, I'm gonna believe it. So I like that you took a more critical eye and felt a little bit, weary heading into the program. And then it's my job to show you that what's possible. So once you started within the Cravings Code, you had already done the Cravings Cleanup Challenge. So your cravings had already sort of stabilized and subsided a bit, even just within those first 7 days. What did you learn within the Cravings Code that really had an impact for you besides maybe satisful plates? And just to give you kind of a recap of those Code 6 curriculum that we went through. So we talked about staying consistently satisful, right? And showing up for satisful plates anywhere, anytime, whether we are at a party or at a restaurant or traveling. We talked about cornerstone habits, which is those 2 or 3 things that you're doing maybe when life gets unpredictable or you get really busy or hectic, those things that you can really hold on to. Instead of trying to do everything well, you're just focusing on those 2 or 3 cornerstone habits. We talked about correcting sleep and stress. We talked about the 80-20 continuum, which is the opposite of all or nothing. It's sliding on that scale. We talked about Crave and Go and some alcohol strategies. And then lastly, we talked about CHESS cravings awareness exercise, which is an acronym for helping us assess why our cravings are happening. So out of those, like, are there any ones that really stood out to you that you feel like you're still applying today, that maybe surprised you, that you were like, oh my God, I can't believe how helpful
So
this
I
is?
remembered when you introduced the 80-20, and I was like, I don't know what this means. 80-20. How do I know I'm 80% full? I was so like overwhelmed with that. But I have to say, I have been practicing that. That's like with every meal. I eat, but I'm not full. And so I finally figured it out. And I feel like I've perfected that. So I'll eat and I say, wow, this is great. I'm not full. And I had enough. Like, I know now to say I had enough. Also with that is the eating slow. I still do as well. And I'm more aware, like you brought out a lot of attention to the sleep. I'm more aware with the sleep, and that I remember you saying, even though I'm on summer vacation, I still should get up within the 2 hours of when I normally wake up during the year, when I'm working at school. And that had to be the best thing for me, because I would wake up, and even though if my alarm went off and I would say, okay, I have to get up, I feel like that was my saving grace this summer, because I wasn't like exhausted all day, because I got up within those 2 hours of when I normally would when I go back to work. So I definitely feel like I've been using a lot of, whatever you've taught me. I feel like I've been using a lot of them, but now I feel more like I'm a professional. Like I could use more than just one, because at the time you're like, use one for this week and then move on. Or I feel like now I could incorporate more than one in my daily, activity or my daily day, and not be overwhelmed, because that's a big thing for me. I get, a little overwhelmed with all these new habits.
Yes. Yeah. And at first, they're not habits yet, right? They're just like concepts and tools. And you're like, all right, I'm going to just practice this tool for 7 days and like see how it goes. And then the next week, we learn another tool. And you're like, all right, well, on to sleep this week. And we were just talking about alcohol. So, yeah, the Cravings Code is sort of this like accelerated 6 week drip fed program where each week you get one strategy. And a big part of what I share is these habits are something that you're going to have to continue practicing on your own. They're not just going to happen, right? And it's so nice to hear you say that they've become a little bit
Yes.
more automated. You've become more like professional with them, like they're becoming second nature. And that's exactly what we want, right? We didn't want these big grandiose changes of measure everything and go to bed at 10 and wake up at 6 and make sure that you know things are super precise and super exact, because that's not life, right? Life is more in the black and white, or like in the gray area, right? It's more like, oh, we've got this event, we got to ebb and flow, we're traveling, we got to figure this out, we've got school, back to school now, I got to figure out this new schedule. And that's really what we needed. So I'm so happy that those strategies brought to light some of the things that maybe were impacting your cravings. And I was going through some of your reflection forms that you had shared, and in one of them you said, I can't believe how much sleep has impacted my cravings,
Yes.
or alcohol has impacted my cravings and my sleep. And you're a very social person. You have like a big group of friends, you've got family, you've got things going on. So I know that was, I don't want to say a challenge for you, but definitely something that took a little bit more attention for you during those 6 weeks. Can you share a little bit more about how you navigated social events during the Cravings Code?
Sure. So I felt like when I would go out in the past, like everything was revolved around alcohol. So I kind of, and food, but I switched the whole alcohol thing around. I tried to make everything about more being social than the alcohol. So what I would do on a couple of different events is I would have somebody give me a glass of wine or champagne or what, and just let it sit there and sip it here and there. And then, of course, I would bring my water with me and drink most of the water in between. And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes I would just let the
Yeah.
drink sit there. But I have to say the alcohol, I did cut down a lot of the alcohol from doing this because I said, I'm working so hard with the nutrition end. And then I just didn't want to come back and go back into my old habits and then just throw all this alcohol in. I'm not saying I cut it out completely,
Yeah.
but I could have a glass of wine with dinner or two. I don't have to have more. And I feel like that was definitely a
Mm-hmm.
turning point for me that I'm like, oh, wait, I don't really need the alcohol to have a good time or just to be social. I could still be social, hold a drink, and feel like I'm still part of the whole social event, you know? So that was
Yes.
definitely a big thing
Yes.
for me. Yes,
That's a big mindset shift. That's a huge mindset
it
shift.
definitely was. And I'm still
Yeah.
doing that too. Like
Yeah.
I'm still, I went out to dinner the other night and I had a glass of wine. Like I'm still into it. And I
That's
don't look for it as much as
amazing.
I used to. Like I feel like I used to crave it actually. And now I am not craving
Yes.
it. So that's definitely
Yes.
big.
And that goes to show the types of foods and drink that we usually consume, our body will crave more of that, right? If we're used to having a bag of chips every day, then your body's going to start craving that bag of chips. If you have a glass of wine every day, your body starts to crave that glass of wine more. Like, for example, this summer, the last few weeks, I've been drinking a bit more, right? Instead of my 2 drinks per week, it's been like 3, like 4, like 5. And like, I can find myself now on like a Monday night, like, well, maybe I'll have a glass of wine with dinner. I'm like, Laura, like, like, who are you? I'm like, okay, it's a season of
Right.
life. It's okay. It's just a chapter. But yeah, it was a reminder of like, oh, well, if you're drinking more, your body's going to want more of that. So I think that's amazing that you've been able to shift that, and not everyone makes that shift, of like, well, I don't need alcohol to have fun, or like this is an event to celebrate my friend's birthday. Like, let me celebrate my friend's birthday instead of thinking about like getting sloshed or whatever it might
But it's
be.
also related to the sleep. And you even pointed that out to me. I'm like, well, if you're drinking, then you're not really sleeping good. And then not sleeping enough is causing my cravings and that I'm hungry all day. So it was all related, which I knew sleep had an effect on my craving, but I didn't realize that the drink, like it's all related. And I have to say, like,
Yes.
I would wake up in the morning and I'd feel so much better, even if I did have a glass, because I drank so much water, with the wine or whatever. But so it was all related, and I rather wake up and feel better and have less cravings.
Yeah. And then you were getting up and going to the gym and doing the whole thing. And you're like, I got a new routine.
I loved it. Yes.
I know. So proud of you. I loved that.
Thank you.
In addition to the alcohol and the sip slow strategy that we talked about, you also have talked about Crave and Go as like sort of a staple strategy for you with cravings. How has that played out for you? Is that only at like buffets, parties? Is that at night with dessert? Is that at, I know you're going back to work. Is that something you'll apply at work? Where have you found that that's been the most helpful for you?
So I find that helpful when I'm bored, like if I'm home and I have cookies or something on my counter. Let's say if maybe I had a party or something and it's leftover stuff. And I remember it was with like some cookie that I loved, and I saw it was on the counter, and I was like, oh my goodness. So I was like, all right, I could do this, the Crave and Go. I walked over, I took a bite. All right, I finished the cookie and I walked away, and I went inside and I did something else. So and I do that too when I'm out. If I'm at dinner, I'll have maybe like half a piece of bread or something like that. And then I'll just drink a lot of water, or I'll get up and use the restroom or something like that. But the Crave and Go has been very helpful, especially in the afternoon, because that's when I feel like I get a little hungry, because I eat early breakfast, I eat an early lunch, and then for dinner, I wait sometimes till like 6 o'clock. So I feel like 4 o'clock is my time. I'm looking for something. So a couple of times
Yeah.
I've used it. I've used it probably more for that, for snacking. Yeah.
That's great. That's
And
great.
I
That's
still feel
amazing.
empowered. Like I still feel like, okay, the other day, like I had, my daughter was baking, and there was dark chocolate chips on the counter. And I remember you saying, just grab a couple of chocolate chips if you need something sweet. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. And it's okay. And I had like 3 of them, and I'm like, this was great. And it was enough.
Wow. Wow. Do you feel like the obsession with food, the constant thinking about food that you shared earlier, that was sort of consuming this earlier version of yourself, do you feel like that's gone?
Oh, definitely. I don't think about food all day.
Wow.
I it's not consuming my thoughts like it was, and I'm not like anxious or nervous around food. Like I feel like I'm in control. Like I could make a choice and have that chocolate chip or have that piece of bread, and it's okay because I don't have to eat the whole thing. I could just eat some of it. And like that's very empowering to me, knowing that I could have it, but I could also walk away. So like there's options, and I do well with options.
Yeah. And I think that's why a lot of women don't feel that control, is because with restrictive diets, there aren't many options, right? It's sort of like, this is what you're doing, this is the protocol, these are the points that you're allotted. And so in an effort to have that control by, all right, this is how many points I'm eating, these are the exact foods I can have, like the more control we try and have, the less control we actually feel.
Right. And I thought I was the opposite, but from this experience, I realized that it's not. I'm more of, I need to have the options, that so that I feel more in control, because I'm a big rule follower. So I thought I need to follow more rules. Like I thought that would be better for me. But in this
I love
experience,
that.
I've learned that, you know, by saying, oh, 1 or 2 palm sizes, well, my palm size is probably different than your palm size. Like what, so having that flexibility, I've learned, is what I need.
Yes. Yeah, and that's real control, right? Being able to go someplace and decide like, oh, I can have this or I can't have that, right? That I can if I want, or I can if I don't want. Like that's real control, like being able to have that choice almost made, like that you can make for yourself, not feeling like you have to be relegated to these rules or
Correct.
these standards. So that's a huge shift. That's a huge shift. I'm so glad that you were able to move in that direction, because now it's a whole new world, right? Now you've given up so much mental energy. You've given up all that mental energy towards food now that you can focus on other
Yeah.
things in your life. Which I know in Slim Six, you started exercising and moving. And I know that was something that was new for you in terms of a routine. How else are you doing things differently now that you have more mental space and less stress about cravings and food and your weights and things like that?
Well, I'm definitely walking a lot more. I try to at least walk a decent walk like 2 times a day in the morning, then at night. So that's definitely something now that I've added in. And if I don't get one of those walks in, I'm not like hard on myself. Like, I'm not like, oh, what
Yeah.
did I do? And like, I'm not, having those negative thoughts anymore. And that's a big thing. Like, okay,
Yeah.
so I ate what I ate, but the next meal I'll get back on track. Or I had 2 glasses of wine last night. Okay, I'll get back on track. So before I would really beat myself up about that. So I feel like just the whole mental space now of not being so negative on myself. So if I do, then I'll say, okay, like I try to talk myself out of it and try to reshift my thought on something else and not being, so
Mm-hmm.
negative that and saying it's doable. It's not going
Mm-hmm.
to happen overnight, but it's doable. Yes. And not being so hard on
Yes.
myself. And like you said, we have to have grace with ourselves, so that's something that I'm also learning to do and be patient with myself as well.
Wow. Wow. I love this. I love this because how many of us grow up just thinking like I can't change or that's never going to be me, right? Or I am how I am. I am who I am. Like I'm never going to be that
Right.
person, right? And I mean you've proven like you've even shared, you're in menopause, you've lived lives and you've had kids and you're a teacher and you've lived a full life, and here you are just changing as a person, like at your core, like developing a new identity almost, in terms of like how you relate to yourself and your body and nutrition and your health journey. It's just so inspiring. Like I'm not gonna cry, but like I could cry, but like I'm not going to. But it's just so nice to hear because I feel like you're now living a life that's more full and happier and less
Definitely.
stressful and less hard on yourself, and like we need that as women.
Definitely. And it's all because of you, Laura. So thank you for all your knowledge and
Oh,
your time and your compassion. I really appreciate it.
of course. You're welcome. I mean, this is what I love to do.
And I also feel like we've developed a relationship, even though I don't know you personally. I feel like through this whole process
Yeah.
that, like, that we've become friends and that I know you, even though, it's just through this whole experience. And that's a great thing as well.
Yeah. It is. It is. And this is the best part. Like I have my clients are like what brings me joy in my life and it's like why I keep showing up. So now in this point of your life, what are some of your goals? Like what are some of the things that you're working towards? Are you focused more on routine and habits in your day to day? Are you setting like longer term goals for yourself? Are you just practicing like the Cravings Code and the Slim Six strategies? Like what are some of the things that you're just kind of focusing on, maybe short and long term?
Sure. Well, I still am definitely going to be doing everything from the Cravings Code, everything that we have been doing, because it's like second nature, to be honest with you, right now. And one thing, though, that I feel like I always have to work on is the exercising and moving more. So when I go back to work, that's something that I know is going to be a hurdle for me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I definitely always have to be consistent with working on. But my food choices, I'm still going to keep doing the satisful plates. When I'm at work, I do meal prep on Sundays for the whole week for my breakfast and my lunch. So yes, I definitely
That's
do that.
great.
I have to do that. Just because with the Crohn's as well, like I know what I'm eating and I know what I can eat. I really can't eat out too much, especially at work.
Mm-hmm.
So the meal prep is definitely a great thing for me during the week. So the main thing that I really want to be consistent with and work on is the working out. So beforehand, I would always be like, oh, I have to work four
Okay.
or five times a week. But like you said in the beginning, even if you do 2 days is better than no days, or etc. So I feel like I always thought I had to do 45 minutes for 3 to 4 times a week, and that's overwhelming to me. So I'm going to try to do it a couple of days a week. Maybe not as obviously not 45 minutes, but I'm going to try to stick to some type of routine and obviously keep the walking in as well. So yeah, I'm definitely going to
Awesome.
concentrate though on the move more. I think that that's something I have to do.
So let's talk through that a little bit. Like let's find some solutions for
Sure.
that if you want, right
That's
on right
great.
on the call right now. So what were you thinking in terms of finding that routine and trying to get 2 days a weekend? Do you feel like you want to do that in the morning before school? Do you want to focus that on the weekends? Do you want to do that after work? Where were you
Well,
anticipating
definitely
fitting that
after
in?
work, and then probably a day on maybe on the weekend. And then the walking,
Okay.
I'm going to try to do pretty much every day. Try to get some walking in as well.
Okay. Okay. And after work, do you have commitments after work on some days? Like, do you do after school stuff, or is it sort of you're done with school and then you can go do your own thing?
Yeah, I'm pretty much from when I'm done with school. Mondays is my late day, but right now I don't have anything after school. So I could do, once I'm done with school, I could come home and kind of do what I want to do for myself.
Okay. And I know you said you were going to the gym and doing some of those classes. That's not available anymore for you?
So the classes that I was doing was in the morning. I'm going to see if the schedule changes for the gym like next week. I guess I'm going to check it out to see maybe there is a class because I do enjoy doing the classes and that pushes me. So I am going to look into that
Yeah.
and see.
Okay.
Otherwise, then, I mean, I have a Peloton bike or I have, I could do maybe some like online classes, but I just know myself, I'm more
Yep.
motivated to go physically to a class. I enjoy that.
Mhm. That's great that you know that. That's great that you know that. So maybe a goal for this week could just be connect with the gym next week and finalize their schedule and say like, "Hey, is this the schedule you're going to have?" And then actually pick the classes that you're going to do, whether it's like Tuesday, Thursdays and like highlighting them, okay, 4:45 or 5:30,
That's a good
these are the
idea.
classes I'm doing. And then, if they fall kind of around dinner time or, they're not early enough, you might have to coordinate with, whoever's at home like I'm not going to be able to cook these nights or we're doing leftovers or we're going to eat a little bit earlier, a little bit later, so then you can kind of adjust whatever you might need in those evening slots
All right.
for
That's a good
yourself.
idea. Yes.
Does
Thank
that
you.
make sense? Awesome. Yeah, and so then the walking, when do you feel like you can get that in? Like before work, middle work? Is that gonna have to be evenings as well?
Yeah, well, before work, I do like a little walk because of the dog, but it's I don't really have that much time in the morning. So if it's like a 5 or 10 minute walk in the morning, then it would be when I come
Yeah.
home. I usually just come home, drop my stuff, and just go for the walk. Like I won't sit down. I because then I won't get back up,
Yep.
and so I try to do it like as
Right.
soon as I get home. I'll try to go. I think what I'll do though is extend that walk a little bit longer than instead of maybe doing two, because now I'm doing like two long walks, but they're only like maybe 30 minutes each or something like that. Maybe I'll do it for a little bit longer when I come home from work.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And then on the days that you have your workouts, you can do a walk. And then maybe the opposite, the other days that you have your workouts, you'll just do workouts. Maybe you can walk to that gym. Or another idea could be, do you have any free periods at during school?
I do.
So something that's worked for some of my clients is walking the building, doing lunch walks, doing, even if you have a 15-minute break, just getting up for some steps. It helps also mentally, just like that detachment of like having to teach, right? I'm sure there's things you could do or lesson planning or things like that. But even just imagine taking two 15-minute walks in the middle of the day. That's almost like one 30-minute walk that you would take at night. So see if you can somehow work that in. And as a bonus, if you can find someone that wants to join you for afternoon walking or midday walking or period 5 walking, and you can start a little walking group in your school.
That's not a bad idea.
Um, you can have some support there with that. So that's something that's worked for some of our past
That's
clients too.
great. Thank you. That sounds good.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, sometimes I just try to go up and down the steps, like just a couple of times.
Yes, totally. And move more is exactly
Correct.
what we talked about, right? Like maybe park a little farther away or take the stairs, or, don't go to the bathroom that's closest to your classroom, go to the one that's a little bit farther. So you can definitely find ways to move more in your day to
Yes,
day too, like that.
definitely.
Okay, so let's wrap up. So what would you tell someone who was thinking of joining the Cravings Code? Who would you recommend the
So
program
I
for?
feel like it's for anybody that wants to have either a better relationship with food, or if they're struggling with what to eat or how to eat, or if you're measuring or weighing anything. That's one great thing with Status for Plates, is that you're not measuring or weighing anything. You're all just kind of eyeballing everything. And it's definitely a no-brainer. Status for Plates, it's definitely easy to accomplish. It's not something that if you go out to eat or if you're at a buffet that you wouldn't be able to follow. It's very empowering, and I feel like it really is for anybody and of all ages as well. There's really no age
Mm-hmm.
limit, I would say, on Status for Plates or on all these cornerstone habits that you've taught us, or anything that you've taught us. And it's all doable. Everything is doable and easy. Like, I feel like anybody could accomplish this that wants to. So I definitely would recommend it to everyone,
Mm-hmm.
and, of all ages, I have to say.
Aw, thank you. Thank you. That means a lot. And I know that's going to help other people listening, because, I can hop on and share about the Cravings Code and share about my experience as a coach and what you have all experienced and your results, but for you to come on and share your experience, it means a lot more, right? And a lot of women can sometimes hear themselves in your story and be like, wow, well, I went through that too, and oh, that's where I'm at right now, and that's where I want to be. So, Lisa, I really appreciate your time so much. I wish I could just come through the computer and give you a big hug and squeeze you and see you. You have come so incredibly far in just a short amount of time, and I hope that you pause and recognize that for yourself, and are proud of everything that you've accomplished, and you celebrate it, right? And you tell people, and you share it with your family, and you share it with your friends, because some of what we talked about is that social support, right? Letting your partner know, and your daughter and your people that you work with, like, hey, like, I'm trying to move more this semester, like, I'm going to be walking fifth period if you want to join me. Like, get people on board with your goals, bring them along on your journey. You're going to be more successful, you're going to be more consistent with it. So celebrate it, shout it from the rooftops, embrace this new version of yourself, and I hope to keep in touch in the future too.
Yes, I would like that. And thank you again for all your knowledge and your support and your help and your understanding. And I really appreciate it so much. And I could tell that you really love what you do and you really do care. And that goes a very long way. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. Thank you again so much.
Thank you.